think it helps to give you a different dimension. Ordinarily when we go in on valuations, you've got one route on how you're going to sell the house. To me, this gives us, like I say, a completely different proposition and just massively increases your chance of getting the instruction. The key to most good salesmen is that they can be quite good listeners as well. And I think the vendors themselves will almost introduce the opportunities for auction depending on what they want to achieve from a sale. But if they've got a definitive timescale in mind, if they've previously had sales fallen through, for example, and they're looking more for the assurity, I think the opportunity will present itself more from what you hear from them rather than what you actually look for. Again, it depends on the vendor's previous experience. If they've, like I say, had experience before of sales fallen through, then they prefer the assurity that it brings by the reservation fee and the fact it's non-refundable. Some vendors have got a specific timescale in mind and they like the fact that there are definitive timescales with an auction that are not as easy to back out of as it is on the open market. So again, depends on what the vendor tells you when you're listening at the valuation stage. The most common one that I've come across tends to be that their perception of auction is that properties are sold considerably below the market value. So the best example for me, usually some of the examples I have on the iPad presenter, is the live examples of properties that have been in previous auctions, what the guide price was, what they actually sold for. I just prefer to mention it as early as possible, to not be scared of it and not use it as an option to pick up later down the line. I think whether the vendor chooses to go with the auction option from the outset or they pick that baton up later down the line, but the fact that you're mentioning that your company has an association with an auction house that can offer that from the outset, it just, like I say, gives you that extra dimension. You don't have to oversell it, just mention it right at the outset, and like I say, don't be afraid to mention it. I mention it very, very early on in my appraisals.